The Gi spot. I'd hit that.
Welcome to the Gi Spot podcast. My name's Rachel Bradshaw and I'm a black belt in Jiu Jitsu.
No, you have a black belt.
I have a black belt in Jiu Jitsu.
Hello, I'm Kaz Page. I have a purple belt in Jiu Jitsu and we're back.
Do you notice something really cool in the background?
Isn't it pretty?
So if you only listen to us, you won't see this, but if you watch us, you will see we have this beautiful new addition. How good does that
So
look?
I'm going to do a really huge shout out to Kings of Neon for that as well. Only because, honestly, guys, there's probably a million zillion companies out there that are doing neon signs. Kings of Neon were responsive.
Yep.
They were amazingly fast. I stuffed up in the shit that I sent them the first round. When I went back and went, okay, I'm so sorry, they're all like, no problems at all. Give it to us again. We'll run it all again for you. They give you a really cool mock-up to sign off on.
Yep.
Honestly, it was the most seamless and bang for bucks.
Yep.
I got 3 different quotes and they were right in there, equivalent.
Yep.
And I had it within 7 days. And
Amazing.
look at it.
It looks so good.
It's so stunning and it's plug and play.
We're so professional now.
I know, we're legit. That's what I said to you when I got it and turned it on. I feel like we're legitimate.
I mean, but we've done like the background stuff of this studio now, and I swear, and I've said it so many times, every time I come in here, Kaz and Matt have just upgraded this facility every single time. It's so amazing. I feel like the class of the studio is like, it's outclassed us.
Never.
We got to pick up our game.
I think it's eclectically, perfectly us.
It's really cool. Very, very cool.
So we're getting there. But yeah, welcome to the club.
Yeah. And it kind of gives us this like neat little backlighting and
Yeah,
I can see it on my face and everything. It's cool.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot. So thanks, Kings of Neon. I think you've done an amazing job.
Beautiful.
How was your week?
It was amazing.
I know, wasn't it?
It was incredible. We finally made it, guys. We've been saying it for weeks, subversion, subversion, subversion. And we made it to the night.
We did.
And honestly, it was the best card they've ever had. Tremendously amazing matchups. No boring fights, no matches, nothing like that. It was just everyone going for it. The crowd was electric, the vibes, the music, the lighting, the sound, everything.
And
was
all
just
the
top-notch.
competitors were amazing too. They, I would think that coming into such a big night.
Yes.
And subversion's the biggest in Australia, right? So coming into such a big night, nerves would be playing a part, right?
Of course.
You've trained for this for months and months. You're focused. You're dead on. We've talked about training and the rigorous routines that you have to go through for competition. But every single one of those competitors come out engaged with the crowd. They were on. They were there to do their job, and they all did it phenomenally well. But they were so engaging as well.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenal night. So a couple of things just to break down on that. So you go first.
Yep.
How did Jaden go?
Oh my goodness, it was such a great match, wasn't it?
Yep, it really was.
Oh, he came out on stage. How many people do you reckon we had from Iconic there? There would have been about 50, I reckon. 50 people in the crowd. It was like a whole one side of the stage. We're all up on our feet screaming. Once again, I got like lightheaded from screaming so much. I had to sit down and regather and then get back up and go again. He had probably one of the most interesting and toughest matches of his career. So, They tap hands, they bump fists. The other guy got a bit of a takedown on Jaden. He scrambled to get to his feet. Then Jaden got to his rear body lock, which is like his signature takedown. It's this massive lift and dump. Got there, they engaged in a leg entanglement a little bit, and then Jaden just moved into the slickest and smoothest knee bar I think I've ever seen. Like it was all over and done with in about 3 minutes or something
I think
like
even
that.
less than that. I'm not sure. Matt will have the statistics on it, but yeah, it was all over and done with pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was just, but the whole time I'm sitting there like biting my lip and scratching my fingers and fidget spinning, and I'm like, okay.
It was pretty exciting. And, you know, again, the crowd roars and the night's just epic. I've got to say, firstly, congratulations to Jaden, because it was amazing. Undefeated.
Yep.
We're going to get him on the podcast.
So he's been on Subversion now 4 times,
Yep.
and he's won every match. So
Yep.
absolutely incredible. I asked him a month or 2 ago, and then I re-asked him after his match win on the weekend, could we get him on the podcast? And he's super keen.
Excellent.
The whole thing though is when are we going to get him on? So so we got to sit down with him in that. But he's really excited to get on. We'll talk to him about, like, you know, competition strategy, mind, you know, getting your mind ready, getting your body ready.
Yep.
He does a lot of strength and conditioning in the lead up to his matches and things like that.
Let's not give it all away.
No, I know, but we'll get him on to talk about what his routines are and how he approaches it. And I can't wait to get him on the podcast.
It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
And look, I just want to say too, I took one of my oldest, longest, dearest friends, Justine, to Subversion with me on Saturday night. Now, Jussie and I have been mates for a really long time, but we're the epitome of yin and yang. She's polished, I'm not. She's this, she pivots left, I pivot right and everything. So we're that perfect combination of she'll get dressed up to go out and I'll go to a fight night kind of thing. So we brought her along to Subversion, and I huge shout out to George and Matt, because it was another phenomenal night. But I sent George a message afterwards, because as Jussie was walking out with us to go to the car park, she was still buzzing with excitement. Now, she has no clue what jiu-jitsu is.
Yeah.
She's got no real understanding.
She doesn't train.
She's never trained.
She just knows that you do it.
Yeah, that's it. That's about as well. And her grandson, I will say her grandson is now into it as well, which is super cool. But he's a 5-year-old, right? So she's not learning the intricate details of the sport or the art or anything. So she's come along with us for the night. Now, her and Vicky had a whale of a time. They just laughed and laughed the whole night. It was amazing to watch. But as we were walking out, going to the car, I said, how did you go? I said, would you come back to another one? She said, you tell me when the next one is and I'm all in. She said it was just amazing. The people, the vibe, the atmosphere, everything about it was exciting and exhilarating. She said, I had no fucking clue what was going on, and it was still amazing and exciting and so much fun. I'm coming back for the next one.
That's incredible.
Right?
Yep.
So, when we talk about this being like a rock concert for jiu-jitsu, we're not wrong.
Yeah.
Anybody can come along and have a great night. It's just an atmosphere that you have to experience, I think. You have to be there and experience it to really grasp it.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, shout out to Subversion, guys. You did an amazing job. Well done.
Absolutely incredible. Best show yet.
Absolutely. And, by all the socials that are coming down from George at the moment, the next one's gearing up to be even bigger.
I know. I'm excited.
Me too.
He's already started planting seeds. I'm like,
I know.
Who is this potential matchup?
Give it up,
he
George.
Almost gave it away on our episode with him.
I know, I'm calling him out. I want you guys back on for another episode. Let's do it. As soon as you got it all formalised. Let's go. All right. So today, what are we doing today? Yeah, okay, I'll do it. Duh. So I lying around this morning, chilling, shooting the breeze, I was thinking about all of the people that have influenced my journey through jiu-jitsu along the way. Now, there is a plethora of them. I've got to say that first and foremost, and we don't have 4 hours to go through and break down every single person that has had some sort of positive influence for me along this journey. But I thought it might be an interesting topic for us to break down a few people that have been influential to us on our journeys, because there are some people in my journey that have done so much more for me than just my jiu-jitsu on the mat. Mm-hmm. And I think if people maybe stopped and just paused for a minute and started to think about the impact of people that you meet through this art and what they're actually giving you.
Yep.
It's not just how to do an armbar.
Yep.
There's so much more to this. And so I just thought it might be a cool thing for us to start the thought process and start the conversation and see where that leads for all the people out there as well, to maybe do some retrospective of their own, and hey, maybe even do a shout out to the people and go, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you gave me in my journey.
It's so true. And I think that, you know, sometimes we sit there and we just assume that people know the impact that they've had on our lives, and we keep it to ourselves because we're like, oh, you know, well, that's kind of embarrassing to say such gushy things over someone. But you know, just the other day, it was literally this week. What day is it today? Wednesday. I reckon it was probably Monday, or might have even been Friday last week. But one of my students sought me out and said to me, I just want you to know how grateful I am for you and your coaching and the day classes. They mean a lot to me.
Now, how did that make you feel?
I just went, oh, thank you. That's so lovely to hear, because, you know, I know that people come to Iconic because they love what we do and they love our vibe and they love our community and our coaching style and all of this sort of stuff. But sometimes it gets into routine and you sort of forget that you do have these positive influences on people.
But do you know what too? Like, that's not why you're doing it, right? You're not doing it for the kudos.
No.
You're doing it because your heart and passion and all the rest of it is there for it.
That's right.
And so you chose to build a business that allowed you the opportunity to build a community and give them something really special.
Yeah.
But to hear that it's working.
Yes.
That's important.
And to hear that it's, you know, that you're impacting someone's life in a positive way.
Yep.
And to get that feedback and to get that gratitude.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
We tall poppy syndrome in this country. We do it more than we do the positive. We're very quick to cut people down.
Yep.
But we're not so good at building people up. You hear it a lot. You see all the affirmations scrolling through and people will send you a billion memes saying all the right words and all the rest of it. But it's rare that somebody will go out of their way to stop you and go, hey, I just want to say thanks. And a lot of the time that's due to fear of, oh, you know, I don't want you to think I'm just blowing hot air up your ass and blah, 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 blah. Guys, no, come on. We can do better than this. We can be better than this.
Yeah.
I sent a lady a message the other day. So we do a whole lot of work in the veteran space, right? And there's a beautiful lady called Gwen. She works in the veteran space. And we're now friends for different reasons. We've, you know, met through different people and everything. But I liked her before I knew her.
Yep.
I had seen her speak. I had listened to her and the work she was trying to do and in veteran family space and everything. And I actually sent her a message the other day going, hey, I just wanted you to know that I was stalking you before we were friends. And here's why. And it was for no other reason than I just wanted her to know she was seen.
Yeah.
I wanted her to know that her work was valued even before I liked her as a human, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's why I thought we would do this today, because everybody that we talk about today, we're going to do a tag in as well and do a shout out too. So I'll kick off.
Okay.
So this takes me back to my white belt days.
Yes.
And I've mentioned a few times that, you know, it's been a lot of, hey, your wife's really strong. How you take that, you know, anyway. But I got to do a shout out to the rats first and foremost. And they weren't even rats in my very early days. Like, rats came about from the COVID process. But these guys, John McAleer, Billy Newham, Brian Lewis, Josh Primer, Geordie Eserg, they really were the originals. These guys, me and just to paint a picture, you've got a 90 plus kilo, 40-something-year-old female that comes from a very sporting background, is a bull in a china shop. These guys at the time were just blue and purple belts, handled me time and time and time and time again. Never once made me feel like I was the hammer. You know, they would make reference to slow down or, hey, breathe, Kaz, or whatever. They were never degrading, never disrespectful. They wrapped their arms around me and just kept bringing me back no matter what.
Yep.
And even back in those days, the journey for me in the autistic awareness and acknowledgement wasn't I wasn't as strong in that space as I am now. They all knew I was left of centre and embraced me anyway. Now, these are some of my husband's closest mates in the whole wide world. They've understood our journey from day dot, but independent of my husband, these fellas all made sure I was safe, I was rolling, I had someone to be with. If Matt couldn't be there, every single one of them would step in his place without question.
Yep.
So, from an influential standpoint, back in that day, I was not there for me. I was there for my family. They all knew it and embraced me and dragged me along for the journey as well. And absolutely 100% just protected me through that process. So
they were all just like, we're going to make sure that you love this, and give you great training partners and safety and all of that sort of stuff.
And have never ever pivoted from that path. Not once. And we're all, except Geordie who had to move to Melbourne, but we're all at my purple belt grading, all, we're at Matt's. None of them train at Iconic as members, but all come over regularly to catch up and all the rest of it. So, a huge shout out to them, because I think all too often when you have a look at females walking into gyms and a lot of the stuff that I see on Facebook and that about men kind of, if the female's strong, there's always that dominant kind of environment that kicks in. I never experienced it. And I've been so fortunate and so grateful.
Beautiful.
So huge shout out to those boys.
I honestly think that, people who adopt you as a white belt and act as your mentors, there's a special place in heaven for those guys, because and girls, because it can be a struggle sometimes, and it can be like, but obviously they saw something in you too. And that's what I find, like when we get new people in at the academy, and we've just gotten a whole bunch of new, like early 20-something-year-old guys, all fit, athletic dudes coming in, training probably in the last month, right? Like there's a whole slew of them. And I'm getting purple belt, brown belt, like I'm getting senior students come up to me and say, there's something special about that one. Like, I'm going to go take them under my wing. And cool. When you hear that happen, it's because they see something in you that they want to cultivate and bring up. And there's something beautiful about the art of jiu-jitsu where people want to share their knowledge with other people.
Absolutely.
And
people want to share their knowledge with good people.
Yeah.
You know, it's how you get rid of the fucktards.
Yeah. So there's the first one.
Bing.
So, I think that's really cool. Very, very special of those guys for sure. And, I remember in my white belt journey, some significant people that gave me tips and tricks along the way, would roll with me every session, stuff like that, just made me feel really special and seen, because it's really easy, I think, when you're a white belt to go, oh, I'm just so, I'm sort of nothing yet, or I don't want to go and interfere or ask that higher belt for a roll because, I'm just going to be their rest round, or they'll get nothing out of rolling with me, and this is something I hear all the time. And I was literally having that conversation with one of my new students last night going, don't worry about that. As long as you're not throwing random elbows into faces, everyone will love to take you under their wing and show you how to roll and show you how to get better, because they want good training partners
as well.
So they will bring you up,
It's really important. And there was, look, I've missed a whole heap of them as well that were a part of that original group. And a lot of them are still around, and a lot of them are still rats. The rats group is quite big.
Yeah.
But it was those first formative years where I just felt so protected, and it was awesome.
Yeah, beautiful.
How about one for you?
Of course, I mean, I have to start from the start, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Grant.
Yeah.
Not only was he my most amazing training partner, my husband, who got me into this and sort of encouraged and pushed and supported and did all those wonderful things early on, but he has been my coach for so many years now too. And I always talk about Luke is my coach, and he absolutely is. And I will get to that, man. He's going to have his own part on this show. And we've had those two guys on this, on the gi spot before. But Grant, you know, I wouldn't be on the mats if it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
And a lot of my jiu-jitsu comes from him. And a lot of my teaching style comes from him. I've learnt how to be a teacher because of him, how to phrase things in certain ways. And of course, over the years, I've developed my own ways and slants on it as well. And I have my own personality that I inject into my teaching. But it all stems from what he's given me. So, you know, he would be my absolute number one, ride or die, biggest influence in jiu-jitsu ever. Nice. So huge shout out to him.
All right. And I do want to say these go in no particular order for me. Like, I'm not doing priority 1 through to 10 or anything like that. These are just people that have affected my journey. The next one I want to do a shout out to is Miranda Pearce. Now, Miranda came up from Sydney through invitation by Nick. They had both trained together down in Sydney. And Miranda came up. Now, not long before Miranda came up to Iconic for, I think it was an open mat, she had gone down the pathway of discovery of autism and embraced it and started talking publicly about it. Yep. Now, I do want to just paint a picture here for all those that don't know Miranda, and she is on Instagram. You can absolutely find her. Miranda is very tall,
yes,
and very slim build. My middle child, Scarlett, who is also autistic and ADHD and very neurodivergent, is skinny and tall, now taller than all her sisters, and is bendy. Yeah. So this isn't something, Miranda didn't affect me personally, but Miranda's impact to my daughter Scarlett, I will forever be grateful to her for. So we explained to Scarlett that she had to come to this particular open mat because there was somebody I wanted her to meet. I had been given the heads up about Miranda before she came. Miranda and Scarlett rolled together, and it was the most hilarious thing you'll ever see. Two very long, lanky, legs and arms everywhere, and they can fold and bend in places that people just shouldn't be able to fold and bend in.
It is the epitome of jiu-jitsu being washing that you're folding with people still inside the clothing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And they both laughed and talked and got along and all the rest of it. Now, Miranda has been over to the house since. She's made some gi spot T-shirts for us and all the rest of it. But the one thing that she doesn't know is that, and Miranda is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so she's had a phenomenal journey through the process. Whenever we mention Miranda's name in the house, for whatever reason, Scarlett's immediate. Now, Scarlett can be 3 miles away, and with her supersonic hearing, will hear Miranda's name and go, "Oh, is that my adult version?" Now, what that means to me is that Scarlett has identified and connected with a person that for the first time in her life, physical attributes, mental attributes, personality, jiu-jitsu game, it's like there's me as an adult. She has her black belt. She competes successfully. She's easy to talk to for me. And Scarlett's never forgotten that. She's never let go of that. So in her mind, every time this woman is raised, it's, oh, that's me as an adult. That's my person. Now, if Miranda hadn't have done the journey and come out publicly in the neurodivergent world and been prepared to talk about it, then Scarlett wouldn't have had that mentor. Scarlett wouldn't have had that particular type of person to look up to. Miranda will never know the impact that she's given that one neurodivergent kid. Well, hopefully she listens to this episode and now she'll know, because that's given that kid in that pathway a super goal that she has seen is achievable by somebody like her. And you know what? Every kid needs a superhero, right? Every kid needs that. We talk about football players being what's the word I'm looking for when you're that thing to the person behind you?
Yeah, I'm thinking mentor, but it's not. That's not
mentor.
it.
It's like the Anyway, whatever it is, I call it the superhero. So to Miranda, you are absolutely the superhero.
Role model?
Role model.
Yeah.
That's it. Yay. That word.
Because some
words.
people shouldn't be considered role models.
Exactly. And so, you know, whether she meant to or not, she is absolutely a role model for Scarlett in that world. And hats off to her, because I love how Scarlett lights up when she goes, oh, my adult person, you know, it's perfect. And she's got her black belt, so Scarlett knows that it's achievable.
Yep.
She gets to see it every time she sees Miranda come across on the Instagram posts and all the rest of it. It's that constant reaffirmation that, yes, you can achieve it. So it's awesome.
Beautiful.
That's another one.
Hey guys, sorry for the interruption here. We just wanted to shout out to all our Central Coast and New South Wales listeners. One of our great mates has started a new business, Central Coast Supplements.
Damien's a great guy who also happens to be a veteran. And as you guys know, My Broken Productions and Iconic are huge supporters of our veterans and first responders. So we'd love to see you guys get behind this awesome new business.
If you're looking for protein supplements, healthy snacks for the kids, or just all-round better health options for the family, check out Damien's website, centralcoastsupplements.com.au.
And guys, make sure you remember to use the discount code GISPOT. That's GI space SPOT. GISPOT at the checkout. Now, where were we, Rach? Here's another one for you.
I'm going to drop 4 names at the moment. So when I started Jiu Jitsu, very, very first started, there was a couple of ladies that trained, but it was a little bit hit and miss. Like I'd go one night, neither of them would be there. I'd go another night, both of them would be there. And then the next night, only one, you know, and I was only training once a week in that first 9-month period. When I came back, we actually were under another coach for a little while. And that's only because Luke had closed shop on the Central Coast and moved everything to Newcastle. So it sort of didn't make sense. I had 2 little kids. And so we were training under another coach. And Simone was on the mats. I think she was a blue belt at the time. That was pretty impressive back then, that there was a coloured belt female on the mats with me. She was wonderful. She took me under her wing. She, rolled with me every session. She was tiny, and I was not tiny. I was bigger then, but she still taught me so much. And every now and then I bump into her on the Central Coast, and it's like nothing's ever changed. Like I don't think she's aged a day in like 15 years or anything like that. Always comes and gives me a hug, says hi, how you going? I don't think she's training anymore, but she was so influential then. And then when we moved back to Luke's, 3 ladies that just were on the mats every single session that I was, and that was Jade, that was Tamara, and that was Angela Gracie. And those 3 women really brought me up through that white belt into blue belt time of my life. They were my favorite training partners. It was like the 4 of us were on the mats every single time, and there'd be other women that would come and go. And it wasn't that we weren't inclusive or anything. We'd try and get more women in, but sometimes it doesn't always stick. But we were the consistent ones for so many years. And then Jade moved on to a different academy, and it was Tamara and Angela, and that's been right through to black belts. So these women that are in our life are so important on the mats when we are coming up into it. And I think back to what we were saying before, probably don't realise the impact that they actually have on us and our journey through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it also taught you how to give back, right?
Absolutely.
So they didn't just teach you jiu-jitsu.
Not at all. They taught me, how to mentor and how to be friendly and how to be inclusive and how to do all those beautiful things. So
it means a lot. Makes such a huge difference.
It does.
Okay, I'm moving on to another child now. So in our neurodivergent world, and you can see a pattern obviously going on here, one of Willow's triggers was anxiety. Now, I've made a comment on it probably every episode, and I'm sure people are bored as batshit with it, but jiu-jitsu is mandatory in our house, absolutely. Competing, however, is not. We tell the kids what competitions are available. We tell them which ones we're prepared to pay for, because obviously competing's expensive,
it
right?
Is,
so,
yes.
There's a financial commitment that you have to put into it. And then we give them the option, yay or nay. Now, Willow has always wanted to compete, and in early days, the anxiety would beat her and the outcome would be disastrous. So we would then work with her post comp and, you know, try and build up and retrospective what, when, why, how, etc. And as she grew older, it got better, but it was always her choice to go back. We never forced her into a competition. So the anxiety journey has been a real thing for her, and it's gotten easier as she's gotten older. But we were very fortunate one time. We have an Airbnb here on the property, and you were having Fionn Davis here for a seminar. Thank you. Words are not my friend today. So Fionn Davis stayed in our Airbnb, which meant that we all sat around that night over the campfire. Willow had a very poignant moment with Fionn where she asked Fionn, you know, Fionn basically said, look, ask me anything. What do you want to know? What information can I give you? How can I help you? And Willow said, do you ever get nervous? Do you ever get anxious going into competition? And Fionn's response was just poetic beauty.
I remember I was here.
She said, all the time.
Yep.
Every time. And Willow
Which actually surprised me, and I think it surprised Willow
It
too.
shocked the shit out of Willow. She was like, I've seen, you know, like, because we got the kids to do some research on her and everything before she came, and she's like, you do not look, Willow's immediate response was, it doesn't look like you do. And which led Fionn into this 20-minute explanation to Willow about how she builds a persona and how she allows herself to go into that, and it kind of separates her from her real world into her fight world, and it puts up this almost shield for her to overcome everything. Now, what was really interesting is that you know, Willow kept talking with her and asking her a whole lot of questions. And I do have to take my hat off to her, because after researching her quite a bit before she came out, I also learned how much work she does in the women's Jiu Jitsu world to genuinely build women up in this space, right? So she, you know, she's as pure in what she was saying. She's genuine in what she was saying. There was no bravado to it, nothing like that. You know, and you could tell, like 5 minutes later, she was on the trampoline with the kids. Like, like they were all a bunch of 15-year-olds. Yeah. But she, you know, her and Willow then went on to have this in-depth conversation about how to build the persona and, you know, what that entails and what it really looks like and what it does. Every competition since then, and Willow's been in a few since then, Willow has taken herself through the journey, you know, and I'm not saying that it has eradicated all the nerves. Of course it hasn't eradicated all the nerves, but it's lessened the impact to the anxiety taking hold. Willow's been allowed to get out there and focus on her jiu-jitsu. There was a blocker in that. She was never able to do jiu-jitsu because she was so overwhelmed by the nerves. So her body wouldn't react correctly. Her mind and her body weren't communicating correctly. There's a freezing element that comes with anxiety. That has all subsided. Willow has found a way. Now, I've not ever asked Willow. I don't need to ask Willow. I don't know if Willow builds a persona in her mind, or Willow has just taken a calming effect from Fionn that says, you can just do this. Find whatever the pathway is, but you can actually do it. And she does. So you know, Fionn was lovely. She was lovely to me. She was lovely on our property. It was great having her here. But I want to shout her out because the gift that she gave Willow, she didn't have to, she wasn't paid to, it was free willing, and it was just probably the catalyst of change that I couldn't have given my daughter. So, you know, for that, I will forever be grateful to that woman.
It takes a village.
Oh, man. Truer words are never spoken.
And it's not just the people in the, you know, internal village or the, you know, the greater village, but sometimes it's the people visiting the village, you know.
And it's those that are willing to give back.
Absolutely.
You know, there's not a person on either of our lifts that isn't genuinely just willing to give back. You know, there was nothing in it for her talking to that kid for that half an hour. She got nothing out of it than the ability to give something back.
Just share.
Just to share. Yeah, it was pure and it was just beautiful. So, and as with everyone that we're talking about today, right? Like,
of course.
They're just real special people in our journey. Who's on your hit list?
I said before I'm going to have to give homage to Luke as well. Luke Beston, my coach, he is just an encyclopedia of jiu-jitsu knowledge.
And story time.
We
love that man, story time.
We do, and we're going to get him back because he's got so many more stories to tell. His gentleness and his authenticity. As a coach to have him as a coach and to look up to him in the way that he delivers and his kindness, was beautiful for someone like me.
He has the best sense of humour. It's dry and it's hilarious.
And it's very easily missed.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not paying attention.
I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah.
But he's also equally genuine.
Yes.
There's just a humility about him that is second to none.
Absolutely. Probably the most humble person.
Yeah.
And we'll give credit to everybody else except himself.
Yeah.
And full credit goes to him every single time. If you're in a room with Luke and he starts to talk about, people's jiu-jitsu and the other black belts on the mats and this, and he'll give everybody so much credit and almost put himself down in the process, and you'll watch the room and all of his black belts will be sitting there shaking their heads like, no, Luke, you have no idea. Like, you are the one, you are the one that's taught us all of our stuff. We're here because of you. And it just breeds that back into the room. Yeah. If anyone, he comes and he doesn't teach adults so much anymore. He teaches kids. And every now and then we'll invite him to Iconic, and he doesn't need an invite. It's like his home, but he'll come down to Iconic and teach our adults. And honestly, it just you'll look at Grant and I. We've got grins ear to ear the entire night.
Absolutely.
It's having Daddy back in the room and learning from our coach and mentor. It's just amazing. But just the words of wisdom he's given me over the years in my journey, and even just recently, like it was last week, I taught a evening class and I had a question about a technique and I couldn't find anything online. And I was like, I know, I'll just ask my coach because I don't see him face to face as much anymore. But I sent him a message and within minutes he had replied to me. Yep. And then he went to the effort too. He goes, I'm in the academy, because he's got an academy up there that he trains at. He's like, I'm in the academy in half an hour. I'll film something and send it through to you. So I got 2 videos with absolute gold in them that he sent to me that he'd done. Yep. He's not, I don't pay him anymore. Like we're separate in our businesses and things like that. But he's still willing to just give.
Yep.
And people that you can have in your life, coaches, mentors, things like that just give freely, like Fionn and like Luke and, people that you have around you. They're so worth keeping hold of, and I will forever be loyal to that man. Yep. And so will Grant. Like our loyalty is never ending with him. He's our coach.
And you can see that. You can see that every time when you talk about him, when you guys talk about him on the podcast, when he's in your presence, it comes across in spades. Absolutely, what that man means to you. Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah.
Very huge shout out to him.
All right. What about you?
Okay. So we have travelled a lot. We've been very fortunate over the years that we've travelled to different countries and we've made it kind of a focus point to rip our kids out of school and go and explore and teach them by, ways of feet on ground kind of process. And there was a while there we were travelling across America. We visited a plethora of gyms and a huge shout out to all of them because there was never a bad experience in any of the gyms that we went across to. But as you know, what is very big to me is not relatives. Relatives are people that you have to be on some level associated with because of the DNA structure. That does not make family. Yeah. And because I don't speak to probably 98% of my relatives, nor his, I'm very, very, very vocal about what determines family for me. And family is super important to me. I will protect the people that I deem my family until death do us part, or until such time as you burn me beyond repair. Yeah. So in all of our travels, there was one gym that stood out, and that couple became our family. They, we probably speak every week. Every time we've gone back to America since, we've been with them, we've travelled with them, we've even competed in some of their competitions over there. So I'm going to do a huge shout out to Kat and Jace Elliott from Allegiant Jiu Jitsu in Santa Ynez. We have been a part of their journey. We've watched their highs, their lows, their struggles, their success the whole way. Matt and Jace are really close in regards to being on the mats too. Matt's even gone back over and helped coach for a few weeks, and they're just the epitome of that community vibe. Yeah. Their gym, the way they structure it, they are in that valley because that's where he grew up. And, Jace has a story. I keep telling him I want him to create a book because it's an amazing story of endurance and survival and success. And Kat standing beside him the whole way through. They've been together since really young age. They've got a son, Jacob. But everything they do with a community mindset. And on all the times that we go over there, they embrace us. They bring us in. We're a part of their life. We're a part of their friends. They introduce us to everybody. And he was the first person that taught me, him and I call it chess. You and I call it ping pong. But it's the exact same logic. So it was like this little moment of clarity because, Jason and I are very similar in our mindsets and how we process things. And he could see that I was struggling to articulate drilling into rolling. Yep. And he was the first person that just grabbed me one day and said, Kaz, we're going to play chess. I don't like chess, it's boring. He goes, no, we're going to play jiu-jitsu chess. Oh, okay. Do explain. Now, he was the person that showed me, all right, you do a move. Okay, now I'm going to counter your move. Everything was slow, methodical, and countered. And it was the first time I was able to start going, oh, here's my bridge. I can start now trying to put what I'm learning in a drill, that's a piece of the jigsaw puzzle. Maybe now I can slowly start building the jigsaw puzzle, instead of just getting into a roll and going on the defensive, which was my mechanism to do. So therefore I lost everything and forgot about everything in the drill. Again, for no other reason that we just happened to be hanging around and he's like, I think I've got something that could help you. I want to give it to you. I want to gift you this little nugget, and he probably thought nothing of it at the time, but it changed everything about how I started to process jiu-jitsu. And so they are my family. I love them to death. They are people that we have a lot to do with outside of jiu-jitsu now. But, he gave me a gift of that chess game that started it. So, yeah, hats off to Kat and Jason and Jacob over there as well.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Who's next on your list?
So I'm going to start going outside of my inner circle a little bit.
Yeah?
And do a shout out to a lady in Australian Jiu-Jitsu called Jess Fraser. Just started a movement many, many years ago. Probably started taking off a little bit when I was a white belt, and it was called Australian Girls in Gi.
Oh, yeah.
And what this did was bring women from all different academies together for open mats, for camps, for things like that.
Yep.
It broke down the walls of my academy's here and I'm not training anywhere else, or you train over there, therefore you're the enemy, and brought women together on the mats from all different belt levels, gyms, states, everything.
Yeah.
The camps, the open mats, the events that she put on. I remember she just put on a women's self-defense seminar one day. And some of the stuff, I was a white belt then, some of the stuff I learned in that women's self-defense seminar, I still verbalize and teach on my own mats to this day.
That's awesome.
The people I've met at those camps, the jiu-jitsu I've learnt from Sophia McDermott. I've learnt from other incredible coaches that she's brought out from the States, has revolutionized my own jiu-jitsu. It's given me tools and weapons that weren't taught freely on my home mat that I was able to bring back and then get some people with, you know, and gives you that little edge, right?
Yeah.
So for those reasons, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for the people and the women that I've met at those events and the friendships that I've made. I'm thinking Tara, who now owns Evolve Jiu Jitsu up in Port Macquarie with her husband. I'm thinking Nikki Lang, who now trains with us at Iconic. I'm thinking Marie Sales, who's down, at Alpha Jiu Jitsu Rouse Hill. I'm thinking Kelly Fisher, who's now a black belt. And these are women that I came up with from white belt all the way through. You know, these are women that I consider some of my closest friends, and who we have long histories of memories and beautiful times and learning jiu-jitsu. And of course, Rachel Crane, one of my closest best friends, is someone I met at an Australian Girls in Gi event at my coach's gym. So Jess Fraser held one up at Best and Gracie.
Yep.
I'm standing there next to this beautiful, tall, blonde, gorgeous lady. We both had one white belt, one stripe. And she's like, hi. You know, she's much more outgoing than I am, and I'm standing there all nervous. And she's like, hi, what's your name? And I was like, oh, it's Rachel. And she said, oh, me too. Where are you from? And I said, oh, the Central Coast. And she goes, me too. What suburb? And I went, Batteau Bay. Me too. And
God.
she's like, do you have children? Like in the course of the day, she's
Yeah.
like, do you have children? I'm like, yeah, I have a son. And she had a son. They both went to the same school. And it was just so bizarre. And we just became instant friends.
Yeah.
And we've been friends for now, that must have been like 12 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, so I've met amazing people because of what Jess Fraser did.
Yep.
And, you know, I've just got to throw so much credit out there to her for that. She saw a vision. She had a vision of bringing women together, of creating a community outside of just your local gym,
Yep.
which would hopefully end up in more women training. That's what her vision was, and I honestly think she did amazing things with that.
Is she still doing it?
She's just hung up the mantle,
Okay.
because there is so much of it happening
Yeah.
now. There's so many women's open mats,
Yeah.
and you know, she did a post, and it was basically like, I think I've
My
pretty
job
much
here is done.
my job here's
Yeah.
done. I've achieved what I wanted to achieve, and
Yeah.
so many people are doing it now, and it's so awesome to see.
The woman deserves an award.
Yeah,
Because,
really.
lifting women up, and I'm such a huge thing about this. We all talk about lifting women up, but we rarely see it.
Yeah, it's
You
often
know?
competitiveness.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And
Yeah.
so this just sounds like it was just pure intent to lift women up.
Lift women up, bring them together, create an environment where we could all learn.
Yep.
Yeah, it like hats off to her for what she did. And some of those camps, like I know COVID kind of messed things up with camps and stuff, but she used to get like 100 or 150 women in a room on these camps, and they were amazing, and there'd be international coaches that would come over from America and all different kinds of places, and they're just absolute best times.
Yeah.
Some of my fondest memories of those camps. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you know that's probably a really good segue into my next. So my early years in jiu-jitsu was very male-centric. And it was because I am more comfortable in a group of males than I have ever historically been in a group of females.
And also, you were adopted by a group of males.
I was adopted by a very strong group of males as well. So very fortunate in that regard, because I think my jiu-jitsu career would have been very limited in time had it not been for that group of rats. Excuse me, sorry. Oh, I have a big frog. But I will say very early on in the piece, and it wasn't too long ago that we had this lady on the podcast with us. So, Karen Nasaro is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. She was on the podcast with her partner Sean a couple of episodes ago, and I made comment back then, but I wanted to shout her out again today as well. In all of my years doing jiu-jitsu, in all of the schools that we have trained in, my dominance has always been very male-centric. I like, it's rare that a male isn't just black and white. it's rare that they don't just say as they mean. Whereas I find with women that can be more complicated, let's just say that.
We have more layers to our onion.
Yes, and I'm not good with layers and onions. So I'm like, let's just get to the core of it. This is why I want your inner thoughts. However, my very first, what I would class as a genuine friend on the mats, the very first female that, and I had, there was females in all the gyms I'd been to, but the very first female that I connected with, that I felt I could understand was Karen. And, I made no secret of that in the last episode either, and I've held that close to my heart. We've had the friendship ever since. We stayed in contact. But she has never wavered from the person she was on that day. She's never been anything but that pure, genuine heart of gold. And I'm sure, don't fuck with her, because I reckon she'd take you down just as quick as look at you.
Yeah.
But if you're doing right by her, there is nothing but pure and genuine intent from that. Now, I want to add another person in this realm because it's the same topic. So when we fast forward 7 years, 8 years later, I still haven't built a female friendship in this sport, right? There's been a couple of females along the way that I've almost gotten along with but never really gelled with, connected with, until I met you. And, I said it in the other episode that we work really hard for our money, right? Everybody does. You don't go to work just to get money to piss it up the wall. Well, I don't anyway. So for me to invest in me and my children to do this kind of thing, I want to know I'm investing in the right people. And when I'm not investing in the right people, I feel almost, I don't know what the right word is, but if I'm going to work this hard to earn the money, then where I'm putting the money is super important to me. And what I'm getting back for that hard-earned blood, sweat and tear cash is equally important to me. And I want it to be right for me. I want it to be right for my kids. I want to feel like I belong, I'm seen, I am as important in the journey, right? When that doesn't happen, that messes with my little spurgy head. So making the decision to go and find that was super important to me. Now there's, we know there's a plethora of gyms on the Central Coast. I could have gone anywhere and learnt Jiu Jitsu.
Yep.
That's not what I was looking for. I was looking for the vibe. I was looking for the people that would accept me, treat us as a family equally to everybody else, and embrace us as the journey. I found that in you. So in 7 or 8 years of doing this, there are 2 standout females in my journey, and that is Karen and you. And what you bring to the table for my husband, when he went through that hand issue and couldn't train, you and Grant stepped up, and how often can you coach? Come and be a part of it. If he didn't have that to fall back on, that journey would have been so different. My kids adore your family, and they've all got their favourites, and they all, align to and all the rest of it. But it's not because we're anything special. It's not because we're different from any other member on your mats. Those that come in, those that come in and embrace it and love it and are passionate about it like you, get that from you. And so hats off to you. You are one of my best friends off the mats and outside of jiu-jitsu and everything. But in regards to what you've given me in jiu-jitsu, in regards to what Karen gave me in jiu-jitsu, I now am a part of a women's group.
Yes.
There are some phenomenal women that we go out and we hang out with and we socialise with, and a shout out to all the women in Iconic, because they all embrace this lift up, be a part of it. There is never a sense of that tall poppy syndrome, that egocentric, that competitive nastiness. There's just nothing there of that. And that's you and Grant. So, from a female that never felt like she fitted into a female group, you've given me that.
Aww.
So thanks. You and Karen.
You're welcome.
So we'll have to tag you on the other side. And we're definitely tagging Karen.
Absolutely.
Righto, what's next?
I want to talk about influential coaches that I've come across along the way.
Oh, yeah?
People that have impacted my jiu-jitsu. So I did a seminar once with a Hicks and Gracie black belt called, his name's Henry Akins. It just blew my mind how simplistic he made jiu-jitsu. And I quoted this today. I don't know who said the original quote, but Grant quotes it quite often, and I copied again today. Jiu-jitsu is not hard. People make it hard.
Yeah, that's true.
But when I did my seminar, or when I did the seminar with Henry Akins, he just blew my mind at how simple he explained things, how easily it just made everything click. And honestly believe my seminar with him took my jiu-jitsu, my understanding of jiu-jitsu to the next level. And that was just 2 hours of the seminar down in Sydney at a gym. When I got home and as I progressed through my journey, I started to look online for his instructionals, and I've invested a fair bit of money in a fair lot of his instructionals. A lot of my teaching cues, a lot of my sneaky jiu-jitsu, a lot of my understanding of all the stuff that happens in between the submissions. So, you know, it's not the arm lock, it's not the choke, it's not the, whatever, leg lock or entanglement. It's everything that happens on the in-between stuff, the transitions, the hold, the invisible jiu-jitsu that is classically Hicks and Gracie. It all comes from him. And that's stuff that I try and impart on, especially in the women's class. I tend to drop those bombs more in those classes than I do even across the board from all my other classes. But that's the stuff that's the magic. Yeah. And I believe that he just sprinkled some of that magic dust on me that day. And in his instructionals, I highly recommend them. If you haven't heard of him, go search him out. Yeah. It's just so easy. It's so simple. And it's like, you know, they're 5 to 7 minute little, you know, visual sound bite sort of things that you can go, right, got it. I'll go do that straight away.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, I like those. I like short, sharp and to the point.
Yeah.
That's easy for me to remember then too.
Absolutely.
And, you know, take away and implement somewhere else. So we'll do a big shout out to him as well.
We'll do a big shout out to him. Really, you know, seems like a really lovely guy too. I don't know, just a genuine person. Yeah. So that's one person that I've learnt from in a seminar. Another one is Michelle Nicolini. First probably female black belt that I've ever met.
Oh, wow.
World champion. You know, she is a huge name. She is a massive name in jiu-jitsu. But at the time when I had my seminar with her, she was like at the top of the top of the top. Yeah. She was the Fionn Davies of then, you know. And she taught this kind of guard where the person's standing up and you kind of are hanging off their leg like a little koala. And I didn't get it too much at the time, but now I get it. And looking back on it, I've taken so much of what I learned in that seminar and I use it on a daily basis to the point where I actually taught it this morning in class. So that's, you know, huge shout out to her too. She's such an inspiration and such a beautiful person. Again, it's these people that are so accessible. Which makes jiu-jitsu so different to any other sport. You know?
Say it all the time. We get access to our superheroes.
We really do. Yeah. Like if you follow basketball, you can't just like fall into Michael Jordan's DMs, you know, and expect an answer back. But I was talking to you about the fact that I messaged Henry Akins 6 months ago and said, next time you're out to Australia, please let us know because I would love to host you. And within minutes, he'd replied, thank you so much, and congratulations, because I told him a little bit about me and how much of an influence he'd been on my jiu-jitsu. Congratulations on your black belt. That takes, you know, and it wasn't just a 2-liner thing. It was like a whole passage. I'm sure he kind of ran out of space, like message too long, stop now. But it was so beautiful to hear from him and get that response. And Michelle Nicolini is probably known to be one of the nicest humans on earth. She's beautiful. And the other one I want to put in on that is Pedro Sauer. Yep. So I've done so many of his seminars. Every time he comes out to Australia, I go learn from him. And again, he's a Hicks and Gracie black belt. And again, it's the magic that he drops, the stories that he tells, those kind of things. I've been lucky enough that, you know, I've been a little bit in a circle a couple of times that he's come out, we've been invited to come out to lunch with the inner circle. I've sat next to him. He's told me stories about how he met his wife and the days of, coming up through jiu-jitsu when it was all Vale Tudo, and you'd have people coming in and have to prove your jiu-jitsu. So it'd be it'd be like fights and things like that. And that was just one-on-one conversation. And he's just so personable and so lovely. I would be remiss of me not to give him a shout out too.
And isn't it funny, all these people that you're talking about that you've gone back and seen again and again and again, you go back because you take something new every time, right?
Absolutely.
It's not like these guys are just going in on repeat.
Exactly.
They're bringing and dropping something new, different, exciting every time they're coming down.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, to anyone that's looking at seminars and thinking, oh, no, I won't worry about it, I've seen it online or I've seen them once before or anything, never underestimate the power of just how much knowledge they've got. They're not giving you everything in that 2 hours.
Yep.
So if you've got an opportunity, that's exactly right. I know, right? So if you've got the opportunity to go again, do it. If there's someone that you love learning from, always take the opportunity to go back again.
Absolutely.
Very much so. So my last one is probably my most important out of everyone that I have interacted with through the course of jiu-jitsu in the last, realistically, I mean, I've been a part of the circle, I guess, for 11 years through my husband's entire journey. But me being on the mats, the probably most important person to me, the most influential, the most inspiring, has literally been my husband. And I don't make a secret of the fact that I joined jiu-jitsu because my husband and my 3 daughters had already started, and I saw the importance of what it was giving Matt post the accident through very hard times of mental health. Inspirational because no matter what, he will not quit. And I think we all saw that at his black belt grading.
Yep.
Inspirational in that no matter how down the kids have been on themselves for what they deemed as failure, he has been there pumping them back up again. You've got this, no matter what, we're proud of you. Like, we're proud of what you're doing. We're proud of how you're approaching it. He just is the epitome of lifting up, which is, given my background, it's been rare. He is the one person that just gets me. He sees me, and it doesn't matter how bad the day is. It doesn't matter how much hell I might be making his life on that mat. He will come back again and again and again, and he will never, ever hold yesterday against me. And that's, for people like me, that is super important. We obviously don't always get it right in a very neurotypical world, and the forgiveness this man shows over and over again is second to none. He and I have very different versions of how we learn jiu-jitsu, how we understand jiu-jitsu, how we interpret. He's very fluid. He's very near enough is good enough, and I'll figure it out in the middle of it. I need it to be broken down very mechanically.
Yeah.
Instead of him trying to constantly drag me into his world, he will forever try and get into my world. And there's not a lot of people that have the ability, time or patience to do that. And I don't think Matt's doing it just because he's my husband. Obviously, there's a big part of that. But I see him with kids. I see him coaching on your mats. I see him interacting with your members. He always has time for people. He's had people come here and help them get ready for different things. He will just step up.
Yeah, he's
no matter
very
what.
giving.
Yeah. So, probably for all of the people that I've spoken of today, my heart of thank you to you, because you've all been massive influences in both my journey but also off the mats as well. There are so many things from all of you that I take into my everyday life, and I want everybody to realise how important that is. But at the pinnacle, at the top of the top, is definitely my husband, producer Matt.
Beautiful.
Any more from you?
No, I covered everyone off. Well, I'm sure I'll get home and kick myself and be like, oh, damn it. Now we have to do another one.
Yeah,
actually,
absolutely.
there is someone else. There is 2 other people on my list, so I almost skipped them. didn't mean to. And as I said, and as we said earlier, nothing about this list is this person or that person.
No, there's
or
no
whatever.
priority except for Matt.
But, you know, I have to give a huge shout out to two men that were incredible influences, both on me, but more importantly, I think, to our family. Mm-hmm. And one is Theo, and you met Theo the other night.
Subversion.
Yeah, Subversion. And he was that guy for me who we came up from white belt together. And I think there was about 6 months difference. I think I might have had 6 months on him. So I'd get my blue belt, and then 6 months later he'd get his blue belt. And then I'd get my purple belt, and then 6 months later but we both got our black belts together on the same day. And you know, he's a beautiful friend. He's a beautiful spirit and human. And he is that guy that he's just so patient and lovely and funny and genuine. And he's been such a beautiful, or had such a beautiful impact on being part of the village that's raised my two boys.
Yep.
You know, and, you know, I'll be forever thankful to him for not only the training partner he's been for me, but also the influence and the beautiful human he is to my husband and my children. Yep. The other one would be Brad, Coach Brad. You know, he was my boys' first, other than Luke, coach in the kids' classes, you know, and he was probably 17, 18 when they started. And he's been there pretty much the whole way through too. They still look up to him a lot. We don't train with him so much anymore. I don't think he's really training at the moment, but, you know, these people, whoever they are, even if they've dipped in for a moment or you know, for years, they make such big changes to our perception, our understanding, our enjoyment of jiu-jitsu.
Yep, very much so.
You know,
and beyond.
Yes, and beyond.
You know, and that's probably one of the most important things. Look, I say it every time. Jiu-Jitsu gave me back my husband, right? So through the 11 years of this process, and I said it the other day, even though he was on the mats and he was coaching, there was still the darkness around because of the hand journey that he had to go through. In the last sort of couple of months, he's back. He's back. He's rolling. He's in it. He's amongst it. And everything about him is lighter. Yeah. You know, jiu-jitsu does that. The community gives him that. Yes. So when it gives him that, it gives me a happy husband at home. It gives my kids a happy dad. It gives our living outside of the mats, you know, lightness and fun and happiness. So all of these people that we've mentioned today, and so many more, guys, like there really are a lot more people. We just didn't have time to cover everybody. But this community that you get when you find the right one, it doesn't just give you the technical composition to this gentle art. It gives you foundation for your kids, for your family, for you as an individual. It gives you breath. It gives you purpose. It gives you, you know, things that you can take into everyday life that you meet along the way from people who are so inspirational, who give you different perspective, who might ground you, who sometimes, you know, take the ego out of you and help you get through that, or they might help you push through anxiety
or they might have to teach you a lesson every now and then.
Yeah, you might just have to be the nail or the blank. And that's okay too.
Absolutely.
So to all of you out there, the ones that we've mentioned, even the ones that we haven't, do you know what? Thank you. Just thank you for being a part of our journey. Thank you for being you, and thank you for choosing to stick in with this sport because you know, without you guys, I think my world would have been very different.
Yep, mine too. You said something just then, it just occurred to me. You said jiu-jitsu gave you back your husband. And I was sitting there, I'm going, jiu-jitsu gave me back to myself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I was a little bit broken when I started, and I hadn't healed from things that had happened, and jiu-jitsu gave me my confidence and my resilience and my identity, you know, a lot of my ownership over who I am as a person and that sort of thing. It gave me back that.
It gave you the space to do the work to find that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the important thing. Like, jiu-jitsu isn't going to be the miraculous cure for everybody, but if you're prepared to do the work, it will give you the space and the people and the, you know, I guess the insight to be able to continue that journey.
Absolutely. And
that's
anything
huge.
where we put ourselves in discomfort to grow as human beings, whether it's going on a 50K run or whether it's going, and doing weights every day or whether it's, jumping out of an airplane, whatever floats your boat, going swimming with sharks. I would never do any of those things. But
I don't know, the 50K run you're going to have to do.
I'll have to talk to Monique about that. Anyway, but, it's testing yourself and it's pushing yourself and it's becoming a better person every day.
Be uncomfortable to grow. And when you're comfortable, start again.
What's your hope for today, Kaz?
My hope is that from this episode, the people that we have mentioned and will tag really, understand how heartfelt this episode was to you all. And my hope is that everybody else listening, please take a minute. If you've got the opportunity to reach out to somebody that was influential to you, my hope is that we've given you the green light to go do that. It's not blowing hot air up people's ass when you're genuine. Go say thank you. Go lift somebody's day by letting them know just how influential they were to you, what a difference they made to you. It might have been for a minute, it might have been for a month. Just go say thanks.
Yep.
Lift someone up.
Yep.
That's my hope.
Awesome.
What's your hope?
I don't know where to start. I have got a hope, and it comes from a bit of it's almost like a negative, and I don't want it to be that. But I have a student who was saying to me that their brother-in-law or cousin or someone that they know very well trains at another gym, like far away. I don't even know the name of the gym or anything like that, but he's so invigorated after his training. He's brand new white belt. He's so invigorated after his training that he rings his friend, brother-in-law, whatever it was, who's like a purple belt or something like that. And he says, after every training session, like, oh, it was so awesome tonight. We did this, and Coach Grant made this funny joke, and the whole room laughed, and everyone's digging and like picking on each other, but it's really funny. And then and he does the whole data dump on his drive home from Jiu Jitsu training, and he goes, and my friend or the person I'm speaking to, he just sort of sits there. He goes, that sounds amazing. Oh, I wish we had that at our academy. I don't have any of that. They're like, we just come in, we don't really speak to each other, we just train and then we go home. Like there's no camaraderie
community.
or that community and stuff like that. Part of me is like, oh, that sucks. Go find a better gym, And then part of me is also, but well, okay, maybe it's not there as strong as it could be. So maybe be the catalyst of change in your academy, because one thing that's become so increasingly clear to me over the last 6 to 12 months, Grant and I have fought for a really long time for our culture and to make sure that our academy has a certain vibe and has a certain community feel and has everyone's having each other's backs and things like that, and that there's no bitchiness amongst the women and that the guys are treating the women really well, and we've got families on the mats and we've got all these beautiful things happening. We've fought for a long time for that, but now it's the students running that show. And I overheard something the other day and I can't shake it, and it's not leaving my mind, and I'm just so very proud of this moment. But I heard a white belt that's probably been training for about 6 to 8 months with a brand new white belt. And I heard him say, and I dipped in on halfway through the conversation, so I don't know what it was in reference to, but he's saying, look, probably just a heads up, like probably don't do that here because you'll be considered like it's not very nice to do that. And I'm just letting you know because I want you to have a great time here. And please don't think that I'm a dick by saying it, but I don't want you to come across like you're a dick either. So, I'm so proud. I'm just like, this is people at like the newest level taking our culture and driving forward with it.
Yep.
And bringing other new people on board and going, don't do that here. That's not how we do it. Do this instead and you'll be part of what this is, and you want to be part of what this is, and you don't want to get that bad reputation as someone not to roll with. So try it this way. Yep. I was so proud. And I just was like, I don't even need to go over and have a conversation. It's just done for me, you know. That's, that can be driven by students, and that can be driven, if you're not in an academy that has that culture, go start that. Start that revolution in your own academy.
Yeah,
Be that.
absolutely. Because I'll guarantee you there's other people in your club or in your gym that want that as well.
Yeah.
You will find that there are other like-minded. You might not get everybody on board, but you'll get others on board with it.
And it will snowball.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really will. So that's my hope for today.
Be the catalyst of change. I like it. Excellent.
Beautiful. Well, until next week, my friend.
Have a lovely week.
You too.
See you on the mats.
Bye.
Bye.
This podcast is a My Broken Soldier production.
And brought to you by Iconic Jiu Jitsu.